How you doing out there? I hope everyone's having a good, there's a fly on my desk. I hope everyone's having a good night, or good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We're going to do an album reaction today. This is actually an album that was a subscriber request. It's an album that I heard in 2016 whenever it came out. Now it's been, of course, it's been 2 years. I haven't listened to it at all since I first heard it, and I don't really remember that much about it, to be honest with you. I remember enjoying it, but you guys know, those of you out there who listen to a lot of music on a regular basis, a lot of new music, will understand, you know, sometimes you're listening to so many different albums a week, and you come across something, it sounds cool, but sometimes, unless something really grabs you, you know, you'll listen to it and you'll go, oh, that's nice, and then it'll kind of go one ear and out the other. You'll forget about it totally, and then, you know, a few years go by and then you don't even remember really what the album sounded like or what it was. Sometimes things just get lost in the shuffle, you know, and that's happened to me a lot of times. It happened to me with this album. This album came highly recommended by Cover Killer Nation. If you guys don't know who that is, I highly doubt you don't know who that is if you're watching this channel. But if you don't know who that is, Cover Killer Nation, he is the best metal album review channel on YouTube. It's between him and Banger TV. I think he puts out a lot of videos more consistently regarding sort of the underground, unknown albums. He's a great resource, man. He's been doing it for 10 years. I think he's got about 70,000 subscribers. Really passionate about his music. Great resource for metal. He loved this album. He recommended it very highly. To him, I think this is like a modern classic. And from what I remember, it was pretty good when I heard it. Again, I don't know why I didn't return to this thing. I don't know why this got lost in the shuffle. I forgot about it, don't remember hardly anything from it. But I'm going to return to it today. So this is a little bit of an unconventional reaction in the sense that, yes, I have heard this album before. No, I don't really know what I'm about to hear. I don't really remember anything from this album. But I'm excited. I'm excited to jump into this thing. And somebody suggested it on the channel, and it's one that I wanted to return to anyway. So you could say this is also, I guess, one of my hand-picked ones. But this album, again, came out in 2016. I don't know hardly anything about this band, An Abstract Illusion. I don't know if they have any other albums. But this thing is about 1 hour and 10 minutes, so this is a long album. This is going to be a long video. It's labeled here under Google Music as black/death metal. From what I remember it being pretty melodic. So I don't think we're going to get black and death metal per se on this thing. I think it was a lot more melodic than that, but we'll see. Like I said, I don't really know what's going to happen or what to expect. I think this will be a quality album to upload to the channel. You know, I know it's going to be an underground album. I know I'm not going to get very many views on this video. But without further ado, here we go. This is Illuminate the Path is the name of the album, and it's by An Abstract Illusion. The first track is called Breathe, Create Beauty, and it is a hair under 3 minutes, so I'm going to let the whole thing play through. think that's just a teaser for the album. I mean, 3 minutes, no vocals. I love the ascending melody in that track. It sounded like it was getting brighter and brighter and brighter, more epic, more grand. They started out with, sounded like some synths to start the track, and then it kind of evolved into, now we have guitar playing the same melody. And then it slowly, the distortion came in, it got heavier and heavier. And then it went into this full, I don't know if you want to call that black metal, but went into this full, you know, classic extreme metal section near the end. And then kind of quieted back down. So, yeah, I don't know why I just went through that entire thing with you guys. You guys heard the track, right? That doesn't need a lot of explanation. I just think that that's a cool intro to the album. Kind of gets you ready for what's about to happen. It sounds like this is going to be a pretty ambitious undertaking. Based on that, it sounds like it's going to be, you know, very beautiful, heavy. You don't get a lot of extreme metal albums that put an emphasis on melody, but maybe this will be an exception to the rule. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the second track. It's called Abode of a God, and it is 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Okay, that keyboard melody is gorgeous. This thing is heavy, it's beautiful at the same time. It's a pretty cool combination. Clean vocals sound good. The growls are badass, man. They sound awesome. This sounds like death metal to me, but it's not the death metal that I'm used to hearing. You know, this isn't Morbid Angel for sure. This is a little bit different. I love this track so far. I love how they're bringing in these heavier sections, and then all of a sudden the keyboard will come back in, and it just keeps kind of rocking you with that same melody over and over again, you know, kind of getting you used to the water. This is great, man. I don't have any complaints with this. I could listen to this shit all day, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue. just listened to, man. That was so beautiful. I don't know what to say about that track. I mean, yeah, people can argue it got a little repetitive with the use of that particular melody. The keyboard started out playing that kind of over and over, and then eventually the guitar picked it up. But I was fine with it. I thought it made the track very cohesive, keeping that in there and changing the instrument that was playing it, you know, about 2/3 of the way through. You know, it made it interesting. I wanted to say too, the guitar sounds on this track, some of them, especially around the 6-minute mark, to me, that almost sounded like a modern prog album. The way those guitars sound, like hyper clean, but distorted at the same time, it just reminded me of something you'd hear on a modern prog album. That was kind of cool. But then they'd break into a blast beat, and the guy would start growling, and it sounded like black metal all of a sudden. And then they'd bring that melody back again. So I like songs like this because, like I've said already, they blend kind of brutality and beauty so well. And as a metalhead, I'm not ashamed to listen to stuff like this, that's this gorgeous. This is extreme metal, man, but it's extreme metal with a very acute sense of what's going to sound beautiful and it's kind of sweet to the ear. And I think they hit a home run with that song. I really do. Like, that's a badass way to kick the album off. So we're going to move on to track 3. This is called Drop This Planet of Dust. So that kind of reminds me of the old Carl Sagan, you know, the pale blue dot. This track is a hair under 7 minutes. And I'm excited. I genuinely, you know, I didn't expect that second track to be that good. So, yeah, we're going to see what's going on with this third track. didn't want to interrupt that part because that shit is beautiful, man. That shit is like ear candy to the extreme. This is one of the most beautiful albums so far that I've heard in a long time, man. I can't think of an extreme metal album that was just full of these flourishes of melody, like from the keyboard and the guitars, and the clean vocals sound amazing, and all the melodic choices. It gives you this feeling of just transcendent, awe-inspiring beauty, you know? This is insane right here. I can definitely see why, and I'm not even 3 tracks in. I can definitely see why Cover Killer Nation recommended this thing so highly. This is a gem so far, man. This is so good. Definitely one to kind of take in one sitting, I think. I don't know how many of these would do well, these tracks, as far as like singles in the traditional sense, because they're longer compositions and they're not like straightforward simple tracks. There's a lot going on here, but I really enjoy albums like this, and I just think this has got a very progressive bent to it, and that makes sense knowing him, the guy that runs Cover Killer Nation. I think he has a deep abiding love of progressive metal and of progressive rock in general. I just get that vibe from him. What to say about this dude? If you don't like this, then something's probably, you're probably a little bit jaded if you don't like this, you know, because this is just beautiful right here. I'm going to continue. You guys out there and girls who know more about this band than I do, is this their debut right here? Please let me know that in the comments section, because I don't see any other albums by this band. And if this is their debut, then dude, they are so far ahead of the curve, man. Usually it takes bands, like there have been a couple that I can think of just really awesome debuts. But usually, man, it doesn't work out that way. Usually it takes a couple albums or a few albums for a band to really hit their stride. They find their signature sound. You know, some of the greatest bands of all time have been that way. Look at Pink Floyd, okay? This is pretty progressive, right? Pink Floyd, they're like the gods of, you know, progressive rock. Look at their albums, man. Their late 60s stuff, a lot of it to me sounded like the Beatles, like, to be honest with you. And yeah, they had some different tracks on some of those first few albums that were classic. You know, they were a lot longer, over 20 minutes. Very adventurous, very experimental, very progressive. But a lot of those songs on those albums don't really sound like the Pink Floyd that everyone came to know and love. It wasn't until, you know, the 70s, 73, Dark Side of the Moon came out, and then they had that run of, you know, those four albums that everyone knows and loves. It's like, it took them, what I'm trying to say is it took that band a while to kind of establish their identity, you know, and to come into their own as musicians. It's been like that for a lot of bands. This is like somebody who just entered the major leagues becoming like the home run champion or something, or winning the Triple Crown their rookie season. That's what this feels like to me. Like, this is so excellent. I can't believe, if this is their debut, that kind of blows my mind. This actually, what this sounds like something that maybe was years and years and years in the making, and then they finally were able to put the album together. I'd be interested to see, you know, the band's follow-up to this. And maybe this album's going to fall off a cliff. I don't know. I'm not going to get on any rooftops and proclaim this album as a classic just yet. But so far, man, I like everything about this. The drums and bass sound so good. Love the sound of those drums. Well, needless to say, I'm very impressed. But if you're ready for this, the fourth track is the title track, Illuminate the Path. Yeah, they've hit us with two knockout punches already. Let's see what they got for this fourth track, Illuminate the Path. This one's 11 minutes and 30 seconds, so it should be pretty epic. this band, the music flows so well. It seems like there's always a melody that's building, changing, evolving, and when it's not changing or evolving, it's kind of like lulling you there, kind of rocking you, like I've said before. This is some of the busiest music that doesn't sound busy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it all works so well together and flows so well. I wish I could say why that is and what this band's doing differently than maybe perhaps some other bands. To me, like, my initial impression is just that the music seems to have a very natural feel to it. You know, you're never sort of out of place. You're always right where you should be in the song. The transitions are seamless, to borrow some terminology from Lost in Vegas. But, I mean, in this case, I think it really is accurate to say that. It applies to this band. Yeah, this first section here is a little bit more anxiety-inducing, I think. It's not nearly as airy-fairy, trying to be gorgeous and transcendent as the first couple of tracks. But, I mean, to be honest, it's still good. Like, it still sounds good. And I'm sure it's going to change over the course of the remaining run length on this song. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not like, oh man, is the whole song going to sound that way? Because I know that the music's going to change, so it's going to evolve. But it's going to be an evolution and a progression that makes sense. We're going to stop it again at around 8 minutes. So when they were playing so slow, it sounded like doom metal, but they had the synths or keyboards or whatever, but I think they were synthesizers like playing in the background, and they were doing these really slow, slow tempo, big powerful chords, the guy growling. It sounded like to me we were getting into, a little bit of Altars of Grief territory with that, and that's badass. I'm so happy they put that on this album. But I just have to say, man, that the keyboards on this album are fucking amazing, man. I don't know if I've ever listened to a metal album and been this taken with an instrument like keyboard. I feel like it's stealing the show on this album. It sounds so good, and the melodies are so creative, and they're adding a lot of atmosphere to these tracks with those sounds. And I don't think you could remove that instrument and have the same album. It wouldn't be as good. It wouldn't be nearly as good if that wasn't in there. So, and that's what's giving me the feeling of like this is a progressive album, because of that specific sound. So far, man, I really loved the way this song evolved and got a little bit more melodic, and then slowed way down and got pretty doomy, and then it sounds like they're about to transition again into something else. So, but I'm gonna let the rest of the song play out. Okay, the melody that they kept playing with the last third of that track was so good. And if you notice, the guy's guitar technique kept switching back and forth. He'd play it higher up on the, or I guess you should say, like closer to the neck or closer to the bridge on the fretboard. Or play some of the higher strings, right? Play the same melody, the same scale. and then he'd move it up to the heavier strings and play the same thing but with it palm muted, and then he would, you know, at certain points he would let off the muting and kind of just let the note ring out when he wanted to. The way he was doing that, the way he was playing that was really cool, man. As a guitar player, somebody who used to play guitar anyway, that reminded me of what it was like to sit around and try to come up with my own melodies and to play around with different scales. And it's not hyper technical or anything, but it sounds like they found some really good melodies to use, and they're incorporating them in different ways with different instruments, playing them with different techniques, and really just building some really epic songs, man. The whole second half, the last 2/3, the first third of that song was all right, but the last 2/3, I thought they really got into a nice groove there. And just melodically, like I've said a million times, I keep repeating myself, melodically, this is one of the best albums I've heard in a long time, man. This stuff is just beautiful. That was Illuminate the Path. That was the title track. It's hard to kind of separate the tracks out, though, I have to be honest, because they all do a lot of the same things really well. And they all kind of flow into one another. It's difficult, but I'm trying to just take in as much of it as I can and process it. And maybe this is why when I first heard this thing, I really didn't remember a lot of it, because the individual tracks, they don't really stand out as singles to me. This just flows as one continuous listening experience. The album has reached a level of cohesion that most albums don't reach, but this thing is very, very progressive. As I've said that before too on this reaction, but I have to say it again. This album, these tracks all flow well together, and that's the important thing. We're going to check out this 5th track. This is called Vacuum, and it is 11 minutes and 13 seconds. Have to pause it. I don't usually do this, but this section right here has Tempting Time by Animals as Leaders written all over it, man. Written all over it. Like, listen to that section again and just listen to the cadence of the main riff, and then the way that lead guitar comes in and shreds, and the notes that it's playing. It just, God, man, it's like a snapshot of that song by Animals as Leaders. That's a really weird fucking place for this to go, or reference, and you guys may think I'm totally off the mark here, but that section reminded me of that song so strongly. I had to address that. I was not going to let that slip by. You guys see me closing my eyes, it's because I feel like I'm literally floating away, you know. And I've had that feeling on other albums too, but this one's bringing it up really strongly. I love the guitar melody there, the simple kind of rock beat. And then, like I said, the section before that sounded like Animals as Leaders to me. Tempting Time. That was so cool. Did not think I would hear anything like that on this album. This is one of my favorite tracks right here so far. I know we've still got a long way to go, but it's like a fire hydrant, you know? It's just crazy high velocity stream of like beauty and melody and just transcendent glory just being pumped out, you know? And as a listener, you're trying to accept all of it, you're trying to take it all in, but it's just difficult, man. This is going to be an album I can tell that I'm going to need to return to again and again and again to be able to fully appreciate it. And I think that's why I didn't return to this thing when I first heard it, because I got distracted by something else. I wasn't able to fully appreciate it, you know, back in 2016 when I first heard it. And I'm being dead honest, guys. Like, when I heard this thing, I listened to it once. And I didn't listen to it after that until right now. So I had basically, you know, tried this thing out. It went in one ear and out the other, and then I moved on to something else, and I didn't return to it at all. You guys will never see a fake, half-assed reaction from me on this channel. All of my reactions that's honestly what I'm feeling and thinking. So yeah, let's get back to this thing. I'm going to stop it at the 8-minute mark. I can't believe this album, man. This is fucking so good. God. Jeez. Like, usually there are songs on albums, even that I love. Albums I love, there are songs that I don't really enjoy. This album so far, I've enjoyed everything. Maybe the first third of Illuminate the Path I was kind of wishy-washy on. But there has barely been a second on this album that I haven't at least, you know, enjoyed to some degree, man. This entire thing. This song, Vacuum, I think is the best, man, that I've heard. I want to just bring this back to this right here, man. If you don't feel like a groundswell of emotion in your body when you hear this, then you're probably on too much lithium. So, let's check this out real quick. The way the double bass came in there is just thunderous. The sound of the synthesizers and his voice all kind of reaching a crescendo all at one time. That was so powerful, man. So cool. I can see why people would be raving about this album. This is so cool right here. I'm gonna finish out this song, I should say. Dude. This is like listening to a goddamn film score. I mean, we've reached that level of just, I don't know what you want to call it, like just cinematic beauty, I guess. Like, I keep saying the same words over and over again. Guys, I have a limited vocabulary. I can't, there's some people on YouTube I've seen review albums, and it just seems like they have an endless store of words in their brains that they can call upon at any time to describe the music they're hearing. I'm not one of those people. Like, I'm sorry. I have a pretty good vocabulary, but it is limited. This album is stretching the limits of my vocabulary. I don't have the words to explain how good this is. I think if you can't recognize this as beautiful, powerful, heavy, subtle, you know, all of that swirled in together, if you can't recognize that with this album, then I really don't know what you're hearing, man. I don't know, you know, what you must like. You must like some fucking atonal, amelodic, just really harsh, gruff, bitter, like extreme metal or something. You must not be able to appreciate melody very much, because if you do, then this is definitely the album for you. And some people may say that it's too soft, it may sound a little airy-fairy, they may not like that. They may not like the overabundance of keyboard, they may not like how progressive it sounds, they may not like the vocals, etc., etc. There's 100 things that people could say about this album that they don't like. But I'm just saying, as for me, for my taste, I like all those things. I like all those things about this album. To me, so far, this has been one big home run. Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily show this to too many people, because I think if somebody's really looking for something like this, they'll find it. Eventually, they'll find it, but yeah, this is something I wouldn't want to necessarily proselytize this to people and then have them turn around and say it's mediocre. Like, that would piss me off if that happened. So, yeah, I think outside of this video, guys, I know I'm like publishing my thoughts on this thing on YouTube with the specific purpose of promoting this thing, but yeah, in my personal life, I'm not going to show too many people this album. I'm going to keep this one to myself. So yeah, we're going to move on to this 6th track. This is called Talvatis, and it is 2 minutes and 19 seconds. Collapse the light into earth. You guys know what I'm talking about? Anyway, Porcupine Tree, people. That's what this sounds like. beautiful little interlude there, but they definitely ripped that from Porcupine Tree. You guys watching this video, go listen to, first of all, Porcupine Tree is an amazing band. If you guys don't know who they are, especially if you're into like prog metal and prog rock, like modern prog, then you must be living underneath a rock if you don't know who they are. But anyway, go check them out. They have an album called In Absentia, came out in like 2002, I believe. Go listen to that album. There's a track on there called Collapse. I believe it's called Collapse the Light into Earth. Listen to that song and then go listen to this interlude and tell me that an Abstract Illusion, that they didn't basically steal from that song. Like, that is that melody. You know, that's where that comes from. Maybe Steven Wilson got it from somebody else, but this, I feel like this definitely borrowed from that song. So I love it. I think it sounds great. It sounds beautiful again. But yeah, every time I kind of hear sort of blatant like references to other people's music, it does kind of rub me the wrong way just a little bit. Unless it's an obvious homage, then that's one thing. But this, you know, if they're going to do something like that, then I think they need to just like own it, you know. Own it. Just be like, yeah, we got that from Steven Wilson. Sorry about that. Or don't even apologize. Just be like, yeah, we got that from Steven Wilson. We really like it. This is already a pretty progressive album. You know, that track that I mentioned came out about 14 years before this album did. So there would have been plenty of time for that album to sink into the minds of these musicians and to influence these musicians. So anyway, something to think about, guys. Just some food for thought. We are going to move on to the 7th track. This is called Skeletons of Light, and it is 16 minutes and 20 seconds. I think that this is the real closer on the album, for my money anyway. There's a cover after this of a band, Wind Ear, that I'm not familiar with, so I haven't made up my mind yet whether I'm going to actually film a reaction to that song. I don't want fans of this band getting mad and being like, oh, you didn't film that Wind Ear cover at the very end, what's wrong with you? But to me, when a band finishes an album, they usually finish it with a long track. This one is 16 minutes. Usually when you get a 16-minute track that late in the track listing, like this, in this situation, it's the closer, okay? Like, it's meant to be the closer, and then they finish the track off with a cover. So I think what I'm going to do is just film this 7th track, Skeletons of Light, and then call it a day. I'm not really interested to hear their cover of another band's song that I've never even heard of anyway. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and listen to Skeletons of Light. I'm going to stop it every 4 minutes. It is 16 minutes and 20 seconds. So let's go. Okay, I had to pause it during one of the coolest sections so far. They just have a tendency to transition between sections so quickly, and it all sounds very natural, man. There's a natural progression to the music. I can't get over that fact. Like, a lot of times when bands introduce that many transitions, the music can start to feel a little disjointed, a little chaotic, a little bit like, okay, where the fuck are we about to go now? But everything that this band does, it always seems to have a natural sort of flow, sort of progression, and it makes sense, and it seems to have a purpose. Yeah, they're masters at writing songs like these that are really long and kind of epic and have lots of different parts. They just pull everything together really, really well. So I love the clean vocals once again, man, and the tempo changes are really killer. Right, this section we're in the middle of right now, it seems like we have the reintroduction of the keyboard, and up until this point, this seemed as if, you know, this was going to be one of the most straightforward, sort of heavier tracks on the album. But then they brought the keyboard back in, and here we are again, you know, playing around with the same themes that have been present on the album already. And yeah, I can't get enough of this thing. I'm going to listen to this thing so much. I can't wait to get this thing on CD. And by the way, guys, I'm going to be doing a video where I show off some of the CDs that I've attained. Not to really show off, that's not really the purpose. It's just I want to reinforce to you guys, because I don't really know who's watching and what your level of engagement is with the music, but I want to just show you guys, you know, that I think it's important to actually give back to these artists and to actually pay for their music. So I will be showing off some of those CDs just to sort of reinforce that message. So be on the lookout for that video. You'll see some of the same CDs that have been covered on this channel, some of the same albums. So, but anyway, we're going to get back to the song. guys hear that guitar riff? That guitar riff is sick. The one we're in the middle of right now, that shit is sick, man. That's off the chain. The guy singing over the top of it, kind of crooning like that, and with that guitar riff in the background, sounds so goddamn good. And I loved before that, it seemed like the guitar and the keyboard were going back and forth and trading off, and each was soloing. They're virtuosic, but they're not so hyper-technical that the music can kind of get away from them, you know, where it feels like it's sort of just mindless masturbation. It actually, everything seems to have a place, have a point, have a purpose. This is fitting right here. This is them just throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you all at once. This is the closer, you know. Again, this feels like a closer. I'm really impressed with this specific track so far. I love this. I'm going to go ahead and let it play to 12 minutes. Okay, so we're getting heavy again. This thing has gotten pretty heavy at certain points, but honestly, the music almost reminds me of like some of the RPGs that I used to play as a kid, you know, on PlayStation. Like some of these fantasy games, you know, they'd have soundtracks that were really meant to sort of pull you in to this other world, this story. I feel like that's what this music is for. This is not meant to just be something you listen to when you're at the gym. It's not something you're supposed to listen to necessarily just, you know, when you're drinking and partying or whatever. Like, this is music to really sit down with, really put everything aside, turn your phone off, turn social media off, turn the TV off, you know, and just really let yourself get sucked in to the sonic world that's being created here, this universe. Like, it's just, it calls to you. It's like a magical type of otherworldly dimension almost. That's the best description I can give. I don't know what else you guys want me to say, but it's just one of those things where I can really get lost in the environment, the soundscape that's being created, and it feels like I'm being transported to another place in time. But here, this section, I paused it at, they were about to get heavy again, or they are getting heavy again. So let's see, you know, we've got 4 minutes and change left on this album. Let's see how they choose to finish it out. What a creepy ending, man. Wow. Oh my god, man. That was so creepy. The end of that was like chilling in a way. I thought that that song started to get a little bit long-winded towards the end, I'm not gonna lie. Felt like they were repeating the same section over and over and over and over and over again. That song was one of the best songs on the album. I mean, you're getting 16 minutes of this band playing, jamming out, writing all these different sections and transitions and different melodies and different approaches and different instruments. And the people that don't like this album are not going to like it because of the abundance of keyboard. This just isn't going to be their thing. They're probably people that don't really like prog very much. They don't really like a bunch of instruments outside of the traditional guitar, bass, drums. You know, they just want the straightforward kind of more fundamental thing. And this to them is going to seem a little bit too eccentric, maybe. But as somebody who enjoys prog a lot, like, I loved this thing. I think this is one of the most beautiful metal albums I've ever heard, and I don't have any qualms saying that. I think this is definitely going to withstand the test of time, even though there were moments where I thought that they blatantly borrowed, let's say, from other specific songs by other artists in the prog genre. Overall, what can I say about this thing, man? This thing was a journey. Breathtaking from beginning to end. No real duds on this whole album, man. I'm not going to film that cover, but yeah, I was so impressed by this. I love this album. I'm going to be happy to put this up on the channel. This is the kind of album that I want to promote. Let me know what your thoughts are about this album. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe below. And I've got some more requests coming. Don't worry, there's more of you are going to get your wish, basically. I've got 3 more that I'm looking at doing right now. They all look like they're different. They cover different ends of the metal spectrum. So it should be pretty interesting. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought of this album. I thought this was damn near a masterpiece. I thought this was fantastic. I don't think this could have got much better. I think they pretty much, dropped a gem, a jewel on us with this album. And I'll definitely be looking for future output from this band. That was the video, guys. This is Metal Album Reactions. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And I will see you in the next video. Guys, thank you for supporting. 100 subscribers. I think it's 101 actually right now. That's huge for me. I never thought I would get even 100 subscribers. I didn't think people were going to watch these videos, so I'm blown away by what I've gotten so far from the support. If you guys have any ideas for the channel, I did a concert review. I've promised you I'm going to do some album reviews too. If you guys have other ideas for the channel, go ahead and drop those in the comment section too. I'd love to read those. But anyway, thank you again for the support. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you in the next video. Alright, peace.